Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and we got one incredible show for you today. A couple of my friends from Germain Toyota in Naples, Florida. Everybody getting set up, getting our technology together. We're waiting for Brian Kramer. He's probably taking a TO before we get started. So let me tell you, these guys consistently sell more than 500 units a month. I'm serious. I mean, Naples, Florida, we're talking about a fishing village. We're talking about Snowbird Haven, where the people come and go, and many of them buy their cars in their home markets. We're talking about Florida that has more Toyota dealers per square inch than any state in the union. But these guys are selling 500 units a month consistently. So in a minute, I'm going to bring on the Dream Team. Now, the Dream Team is, they're all personal friends of mine. That's the coolest part of this whole equation. We got Jarrod Kilway. Jarrod is a mad scientist, genius, internet genius. I mean, he is into technology marketing. Then we've got what I call the salty old pro. We got my friend Wendell Hardy. Salty, and yeah, I haven't seen Wendell in a couple of years. He put on a pound or two. You're welcome, Wendell. And we're still waiting for Brian Kramer, the brains behind the whole thing, the concept, putting it together. But I got to tell you, Germain is a benchmark. It's the meshing of technology and the human factor, the people factor. We're going to talk about how that's done. First of all, I'm going to bring on an old friend of mine, not just physically old, but somebody that I've had for a friend for a long time. This is my friend, Wendell Hardy. Wendell, either you're a midget or you got your camera way too low.
Buddy, I've been running all day long, so I apologize for even logging in a little bit late. We've been slammed today, so trying to get ready for the holidays and ramping up as hard as we can these last couple of days before Christmas. So it's we're all going 90 miles an hour in a phone booth right now. It's great to see you, my friend. It truly is.
Well, one thing about you, Wendell, is you are the traditional car guy. You are the experienced guy. You're the guy that I've known all these years, and that's the flavor you add to this recipe. And here's my other friend. This is Jarrod Kilway. One. Hi, big guy.
Jim, how are you, bud? Good seeing you as always.
Having the best day of my entire life. I've got two of my better friends in the industry on. Tell me what you do. What you do at Germain?
How much time we got?
Yeah, that would take a long time right there.
I mean, it doesn't stop with one thing. Yeah, there's so much behind it all, from digital marketing to social media marketing to helping Wendell and Brian fine-tune process and fine-tune software to our process, building out our internal processes in terms of the CRM based upon the data we have, studying the data, the trends, and everything, and putting all that in a big giant bowl and mixing it all together, and out pops Wendell and Brian.
Wendell, tell me about your function. What do you add to the mix at Germain?
Really just trying to keep everything moving and clearing the runway for a lot of us. Jarrod obviously minimizes what he does here because I'll call him at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night and say, hey buddy, can you help me with this line of cars, or this particular group of used cars, and he just jumps right on it. I mean, he's just all over it, and the next day, bam, we've got leads coming out the wazoo. And I guess to answer your question, my job is really getting the hell out of the way. A lot of times we have such a great management team with Ryan Wieben and Ben Pettit and Josh James and Taki and Brendan in used cars. The best thing for me to do is, once we've got it rolling, is to try to clear all the clutter for them, out of their way, because, they want to sell cars. They don't want to deal with activity traps. So, I try to take the majority of that off their plate, keep them motivated and keep them focused, and make sure we're executing the play that we run here.
One thing I like about you, Wendell, is you and I both have been in the industry a long time. We've been with some really successful dealerships. We've
Right.
been with some high volume dealerships,
Yep.
and we still have adjusted to the times. And we bring that traditional mix to the new age, new wave. That's what I say.
You know what? You're right, because I'll give you a prime example. The end of March, I was out, when COVID was first starting to hit, and I was out for 12 days because they thought that I had, symptoms of it. And all I had was a damn headache, and they were like, "Hey, you need to stay home for 12 days." And I'm like, "For a headache?" So anyway, I stayed home for 12 days. And Jim, when I came back to the dealership, it was like, the store had landed on Mars. It was, everything had changed. Everything had changed. And that's just the speed that, Jarrod and Brian are able to adapt technology to our selling system. Because we were starting down that road with Jarrod and, his connections and his knowledge. But we were really thinking we were going to be a year out before we were fully able to execute it, 100%. And by the time I got back after 12 days, we were 90% there already. And it was, I'm going to tell you, to your point, the technology piece, it was a crash course for me.
Jarrod, tell me about your function. What do you do? What are you doing that accelerated the store's growth so fast?
Just studying the data, looking at the information that we have. It's the hidden gem that a lot of dealers today don't realize. There's so much information out there between what your manufacturer provides to you, the data list that you can get. The biggest one for us was really ramping up service, because when we ramped up service, we were able to ramp up sales. Right. Mason down here has done a great job with our VEP team. I know he's averaging about 100 cars a month right now out of the service drive. And the only way that happens in that scale is you get more service appointments. And, it's that whole principle and concept of filling that pipeline to be able to fill the pipeline for sales, which helps fill the pipeline for the pre-owned team and the pre-owned vehicles. And it's just kind of a big giant cycle of that. So using the data from the OEMs to build the pipeline, your recall data, it's tons. You think about it, you see it on the news every day. There's a recall for this, there's a recall for that. Well, your manufacturers have that data. You can utilize that to get in contact with the guests and reach out to them. A lot of stores take it for granted.
About data, most dealerships that I'm familiar with, most dealerships that I work with, you look at their CRM, and their CRM has 100,000 dead leads. Leads that they stopped working, leads that came in and drifted into the past and evaporated. And those are still living, human, breathing individuals in your market. Mm-hmm. What are you doing with that? What data mining are you doing?
Social, Facebook, targeting those people, hands down. I mean, most of the people today that, a lot of people out there, they're trying to buy data from, third parties to pick up in-market shoppers. Like, a lot of the time you're buying somebody's data that you already have the data on in your CRM or DMS. If you think about your store, this store's been here for quite some time. When Rick bought it in 2016, there's so much data and history and customer information we have that if we were to go and try and buy third-party data for an in-market shopper, about 60% of the time we're going to buy somebody's data we already have information on. So why spend that money to buy the data rather than doing it that way? We do the old, I know you were on with Dave O'Brien yesterday, talk about the tickler files. We've created, in essence, we've created the digital version of that, and engaging them for service appointments, service coupons, when we know they've bought and or serviced a Toyota with us, to get them at least engaged, trying to get them in the door and start that sales cycle over again. but it's as simple as taking all of your active internet leads that the BDC says, I've called them 50 million times, I can't get in touch with them. Well, as you said, Jim, that's somebody who's still in market and lives local and needs a vehicle. There has to be a process to that to get them engaged. And using social is a huge tool, and a lot of people are doing it, but rather than buying the data from Oracle or any of the third parties, you have their own data. You just got to find out where they're at in the cycle and make it relevant messaging to them of what's changed.
Well,
and that's where Wendell really comes into play, and him and Brian.
That's what I want to talk about. Wendell, 500 units a month. Now, you and I both understand 500 units a month. Let me ask you, are we sacrificing gross for units?
Surprisingly, no. I won't get into specifics as far as PVRs, because I know you and I both don't like, that kind of deal. But I can tell you that our average gross on a new Toyota is, in line and, in the top tier of our market and of our district with SET. As far as our F&I numbers, our F&I numbers are great.
Gross. What about F&I? Is F&I doing okay?
F&I, man, is what makes it work for us. If they don't run the numbers that they run, we can't run the play that we run. So, we run a little bit of a different play here, because our F&I guys are, they're in on the deal on the second menu. I mean, they are TO and customers on the floor, so they're engaged early in the process. And,
okay, so that's something I have always taught. F&I, if you're not doing an F&I deal right now, you're like a shark. You never stop swimming. You're out there in the sales office.
100%. And I'm gonna tell you, if you sit in the F&I office here, your PVRs are going to reflect. Because, if you're not out there with the customers early, which you have taught that for years, Jim. I mean, I've heard you say that going back a decade. So, I mean, I know that you've always been an advocate of that. And that's the play that we execute here. And, we've just got the right people in the right spots. We've got the right team of people that are, focused on what the goal is. And, at the end of the day, they just execute at such a high level, that's the cool part to really watch happen.
When I was working with Prestige Ford in Dallas back in the early 2000s, we sold upwards of 1,000 units every month, and we had 5 desk managers in a tower. The tower was way above the showroom floor, and 5 desk managers, and one level up behind them, one level up, were 5 F&I managers. And in between were 2 sales secretaries, and desk managers would hand the apps back to the sales secretaries, and the F&I people were on the showroom floor unless they had a deal.
That's how it should be. Truly,
that was a 1,000 unit. That was a 1,000 unit model.
Well, the days of, I guess, having, and kind of how I grew up in the business was, you had your team leaders out there that had 10 salespeople on their team. And so that was who was taking your TOs out there. But your F&I numbers weren't as good as what I see in the market today.
Well, no, the F&I numbers have definitely changed. But then again, the carryback has changed. The percentages have changed. The months have certainly changed. I mean, when I physically did F&I, 72 months was the end of the world. Now, I see credit unions doing 108. Yeah. It blows my mind. 84 months. I go to dealerships, or I talk to dealerships that start the first pencil at 84 months.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it?
Absolutely. What vendors are you using, Jarrod?
For what elements? We have multiple vendors that we've partnered with. But,
I understand. Okay, like I know you. I think you're using Darwin, aren't you?
So right now, from kind of a digital process of kind of that digital evolution sales process, we're using Darwin on the F&I side. So that's the F&I side with the CDK, connection for the signing room. On the front end side of it, we are using Prodigy. We've been partnered with Prodigy here for about 4 years. And it's not just our online digital retail, but it's all in-store sales process too.
Really?
So we've had great luck with them. Sales guys love it because it's a simplification of the sales process, and it's all on an iPad, Jim, which I know you love.
I don't mind an iPad. I mean, I have no qualm with technology. It's it's the words we use, the things we do. Guess who just showed up?
Brian.
Of course. He's snapping.
There he is.
There he is. Hey, big guy. Brian's going mute on us. We can't hear you, big guy.
You got me now?
Got you now.
Got him.
I had to go.
Now you're going.
Had to go with my cell phone. Every other device failed me.
Here I'm bragging about you guys and technology.
Right? It's a little ironic. I told Jarrod that Wendell will be the first one on this.
The only two technology guys on the broadcast are me and Jarrod.
Well, it doesn't fix procrastination, which is my issue.
Brian Kramer, general manager. Brian, tell me what's going on.
Oh, not too much. We're just getting ready for holidays, and after all the sales events and all the prep work that goes into the last week of the year, which is like the Super Bowl for the car business.
It's coming. And what do you foresee in 2021? Now you guys are at 500 units a month plus, in month out. Where are you headed?
I think that we've got a legitimate shot to do close to 600, maybe 600 this month. And then, depending on how much, how many air bubbles we can bleed from the brake lines, I think we could, especially with used cars projected to do what it's going to do next year, I think we could do 700 cars. But a lot more efficiently than we do currently. Let more sales per salesperson so that everybody can make a better living, more touches per F&I manager by making them a lot more productive by taking away a lot of the, administrative tasks.
Who have you got in F&I now?
We've got Rafal Maziars. We've got Ural Gonzalez. We've got Mike Allen. We've got, a star-studded cast, Brian Sparks, Robert Garcia. We've got Dora Musi, Carlos Cardenas, who's been with AutoNation. Carlos has been in a lot of high-volume, successful stores. Guillermo Oliva, who was at a Terry Taylor store. So we've got a star-studded cast. Nick Bastone. A lot of it is homegrown.
I know a couple of those guys. Mike and I go back a ways. Yeah,
Mike's doing a great job. Then he's going to help us grow.
Fantastic. I guess you saw the write-up when I described Wendell as a salty, old, experienced guy.
I don't know how to take that, Jim. I'm going to just tell you. I'm not sure if I like that. Kramer's been in the business for as long as I have. Look at him.
I give somebody a nickname that sticks for the rest of their life.
Right.
Oh, Lord.
There'll be pages. Salty, come to line one.
So where do you see it going, Jim? Let's ask that.
Okay, I see that it's never going to be the way it was. Now, that's one thing the dealers have got to realize. It's never going to be the way it was. If you're holding your breath waiting for it to come back, what was is not going to happen again. We've had a major paradigm shift. Concierge sales are on us now. Technology transacting the entire deal. That's all on the brink of happening. So we have to decide how much human interaction and how much technology interaction we're going to have in the sale right now. And 2021 is going to start out slow in my thinking because everything depends on politics. When the new politicians come in, the second half, actually the second quarter is going to explode. The first quarter is going to just be average, what we've been used to, but then the second quarter, I can see an explosion in sales and units. And I see a lot of dealers are going to drop out and a lot of dealers are going to grow. You can grow or die, but you cannot stay where you are. Does that pretty well sum it up?
Yeah, and I think that within that, there's going to be pockets. I mean, you see Amazon and other companies, DoorDash and all these companies that are blowing up within this economy that's going on right now. There's still a hell of a lot of opportunity to grab and get unfair share from your competitors if they're not getting on board. I mean, the integration issues, the cultural issues, the skills training, all the stuff that goes along with that, that's the tough part that I think everybody should be working on right now, is defining their culture, building their culture, getting all the systems integrated, which is, Kilway's wheelhouse, and then laying down the non-negotiables, which is with what Wendell does so well, and guarding it and making sure there's consensus so everybody's on the same page. And I think that's the critical piece. Obviously, the next 10 days is going to be balls to the wall, full retail, full throttle. But as soon as that's over, is instead of having that hangover effect, is retooling, coming up with a game plan for Q1, which will lead to Q2. But where do you want to be at the end of December 2021, and then work backwards? I think that's the key.
Brian, for years I have said, once there's the law, there is no room for outlaws. And you talk about being on the same page. Dealership has to have consistency within their process. For years, I've never cared what process a dealership had, as long as they were true to their process.
Amen to that.
Agreed.
Good sense. You don't have people that are prima donnas outside the process. And
there's so many processes I see with competitors that I don't necessarily agree with the way that they do it, but they're all doing it the same way. They have great success.
You will be successful. I never, ever was married to a system of selling. I was only married my entire career to consistency of your process.
Amen.
Whatever your process is, once you have the process, nobody's outside the process.
I agree.
So what do you think is the key to getting that installed from the stores that you've seen that have that versus the ones that don't?
You're going to embrace good people and get rid of bad people.
It's about as simple as it
is.
It's
just that simple. I would not. I'm glad I got out of retail before HR came around.
Well, if you hire right, it never gets to that point, right?
Well, you can say that, but there's so many people in the world today that are professional interviewers.
Right.
They really look good when you hire them. Then what shows up? Where's the guy I interviewed or the woman I interviewed?
So let me ask you this, because I talk to a lot of my friends that have this conversation. So you get everybody on. They're all going in the same direction. Sorry, I had a call coming in. So they're all going in the same direction. And for some reason, they deviate from what they all agreed to when it comes time to hold somebody accountable. What's your take on why that happens?
Why do people deviate? Because we hire the type of people in the industry. We hire a D personality with an I subliminal. That means an aggressive personality that likes people. I mean, that's not a service writer mentality. That is a sales mentality. And these people are like herding cats. The very kind of person that we want to hire in the car business is the most difficult person to manage.
Right.
And you have to have discipline.
And let them tell you what needs to be done.
When I had your position and I was over multiple stores, one of my stores was in the hood, and somebody said, "Who's that guy think he is? Darth Vader?" And then the name being in the hood, I shortened that. So for years, my nickname was Vader, but they always called me Mr. Vader.
But it always seems like the ones that you hold accountable end up calling you years later and thanking you for it.
Most of them are dealers today. I've created more general managers and dealers than I can shake a stick at. Jarrod, I got to get back to you on technology a minute. Technology not to slight you over there, Wendell. I see you up in the top box. We'll get back to you. But I'm on technology here for a second. We were talking about your vendors. How about lead providers? Are you using a lot of lead providers? No lead providers? Any?
What's a lead provider?
Okay, that's the question. Yeah. Are you using third parties to generate leads?
We have a very, very select few, and the primary one that we are using is TrueCar, and the reason behind it is the relationships, as we mentioned earlier, is the relationships with the credit union. The credit union down here is still a powerful piece. They still have a lot of people local that use them, swear up and down by them. So until that kind of goes away and that relationship goes away, it's kind of one of the things we still need to have that to be competitive in the marketplace.
Fantastic.
But other than that, it's our website.
Wendell, used cars, is that your wheelhouse?
Well, a little bit. I've been around it for a few years, so.
He's salty about it.
I just pitched you.
He's salty. He's still salty.
I just pitched you a softball and you missed it.
I'm a little salty about being called salty right now, Jim, to tell you the truth. So, hey, you know what I will tell you though about our used car department, which is really cool, is that 100% of the inventory that we have, that we retail here, all of it's from trade-ins. We don't buy from the auctions. Since I've been here for over 2 years, we don't buy rental cars. So if we're not trading for the cars, or if we're not buying them directly from the customer, we don't have them. So we don't go to the
you're
auction.
Trading in or buying from the customer virtually all of your used car inventory.
100% of our inventory is from either a street purchase or it's from a trade-in, which gives us a huge advantage.
I would think so. Are you keeping back of the fence cars, older cars?
Yeah, we'll we have those $5,000 and under cars, those $10,000 and under cars. We're not scared of those as long as we can get them through our service department and make them to where they're safe, reliable, dependable transportation for our customers. We're going to retail it. If we don't, somebody else will. So a lot of the stuff that we will take to the auction is just stuff that we just can't get it through the service department.
Now Brian, I spoke with Dave O'Brien yesterday. Do you know that guy?
He's a great guy.
I love that guy. He's like a brother to me.
Yeah, man.
I enjoyed that conversation. He and I had so much in common, both being in the outside consultant realm, he's the handoff of what does Dave contribute to your operation?
I don't know if you want to. Well, so we all just went through the training, the quantum training. It's basically skills development, and Wendell was just heading that up with Dave when they were implementing it. So it's kind of, I guess the simplest way to say it is it's going back to basics, and it's kind of going back to old school of how do you talk to people, because you don't just, this technology is great and all, and as much stuff as we're doing, but when you get it all done, you find out really that all it is just things to help facilitate getting you talking to people more. Every email lead, every chat, every text message, all the communication, it's not just face to face. And if you want to get in front of people, always say, well, I'm better face to face. I like to talk to fresh ups. Well, if you want to be face to face, you want to talk to fresh ups, you better be damn good on the phone, inbound, outbound, chat, email, and how to deal with different types of personalities. Last month, 82% of our business came off of appointments. So if you don't have appointments, you're not in business.
82% of your business was appointment generated. Now the process, is that generated?
Yes, in the month of November.
Or is that generated from individual salespeople?
Yes.
I'll let Jared can answer that better than I can.
Yeah, that's salespeople driven appointments. And that's the culture that has been built around it. I mean, I've seen numerous days walking on Saturday, and Wendell or Brian or one of the other managers have salespeople in the conference room still here at 10:30 because they don't have an appointment for the day. So if you don't have an appointment, you're not going to go, walk around and do nothing. The management team's going to help you get at least one appointment for the day. So, I mean, that's what has been ingrained into the foundation of the success is that simple process. And as Brian and Wendell both talked about, and you talked about, just holding the accountability line. It's just a non-negotiable, and we're all working together to get better and learn from it and get more people in the door.
Who's training your salespeople on phone skills?
We all are. At the end
So
of the
that's
day,
an opportunity. If you go ahead.
Go ahead, Wendell.
The same skills. Go ahead, Wendell.
Go ahead, Brian.
You're up.
You got this.
Wendell?
So the same skills training that Dave O'Brien's training on, it doesn't matter if it's phone, if it's outbound, inbound, face-to-face chat, it's all just a communication. So teaching them how to think, you don't have to train them on word tracks and what to say. If you teach them why they need to be communicating in a certain way, they know how to think for themselves, I think, it's a lost art.
That was the point that I was going to make with Dave and his crew with Quantum 5 is that it's the way that he, shapes the questions that are asked, the way that he'll, make the salespeople think about the question that they're asking because of the response that they're trying to get is what he does a phenomenal job at. And it really is, it's so common sense. I don't think a lot of stuff's changed in the car business, Jim, over the years, but a lot of stuff's still the same.
I hate when I hear old school, new school. I just think it's just school.
I agree.
I have put so much technology into what I think and what I teach. And the road to the sale didn't die. We just inserted technology into the road to the sale. Every dealership has a path that they sell cars with. Kramer? Brian?
Oh, ours is the same. You and I have talked about it before. It's the same needs analysis, vehicle selection, but now we can quantify the different pieces of the the steps to the sale. So when we execute selection correctly, our closing ratio goes up to 61%. We didn't used to be able to quantify that without technology. We thought we knew what it was. But now, with a lot of the stuff that Jared's laying in, there's so much more stuff that we can do with the data. As Wendell and I heard earlier from another partner, actionable intelligence, like in the military, he serves us up the actionable intelligence, and then it's just a matter of just scrubbing in and doing work.
Fantastic. If you had to attribute any one thing to the success of the dealership, what would that be, Brian?
The two guys on this call?
Exactly. The two guys on this call here. I've labeled this the dream team. It's kind of interesting because I've known both of these guys previously. Jarrod has attended several of the Internet Battle Plan conferences. I've known Wendell on the keyboard and in person. So how did you get people of this quality, Brian?
Well, Jarrod, we brought him in as a consultant when first got here because we didn't have an internet department in 2016 and didn't have, still on a server. We weren't on web-based internet-based stuff, so we brought. Right. We had like a server-based. We had Autobase, which was great in its time, but you got to evolve. So that at the end of the consultation, Rick Germain pulled me in and he said, we're going to go back in there and recruit him because I think 2 years from now, and that's kind of visionary he is, 2 years from now, guys like him are going to be the key. And I put him up, against anybody in the country. Wendell and I go way back to AutoNation days and used to brainstorm. And I used to use him as a benchmark for my used car managers when they would tell me something was impossible. and I could show what he was doing at the Mercedes-Benz store, and then he lit up, the Toyota store that he went to like a Christmas tree. So when I was fortunate enough to the timing and everything like that, when everything converged, the timing was perfect, and they've both been a blessing to the entire crew here.
How many times have I heard that in my travels? Well, Mr. Ziegler, that might work somewhere else, but you can't do that here.
Yeah.
That doesn't work here.
But it's always the people, and Brian, is generous the way he passes out, or deflects the actual. He should be taking a lot more responsibility for the successes of this dealership, because what he's done when he walked into this store, 4 years ago, he's, like he says, it's kind of like surgery. You don't want to see it when it's in the middle of the surgery. You want to kind of see it after the patient's in recovery. But he's just done a fantastic job of, surrounding himself with, very capable people, and then really let them do their job. And, as much as, I'm just blessed to be a part of the team, the people that are on this team, you got to have your A game with you, man. To play, you gotta bring your A game every day. And I think everybody's real passionate about what they do. And, I think the success of the stores really attributed to a couple of different things other than people, because it does always, in my opinion, boil down to people and a process, to your point, Jim. And then, obviously it doesn't hurt being a Toyota store. But then, when you have a team of folks that hate the feeling of losing more than they enjoy the feeling of winning, then you've got something to really build on. And that's where this store's at. It's just we believe that we can sell 400 new and 250 used, and we'll just, until we get to that number, we won't stop pushing. And then when we get to that number, what it is. Now it's the standard, right? Now that's what you got to do every month. And
everybody can reach farther, do more, be more, have more, achieve more. I mean, nobody in this video is doing the best job we can possibly do. The moment we start to believe we're doing the best job we can do, we're getting all we're ever going to get. We've got to believe there's a bigger number, there's a bigger achievement. Now, see, I had an experience like you guys are having right now. I was with Dyer & Dyer Volvo. And Dyer & Dyer Volvo in the 80s, they hired the dream team. I was one of the managers. I was not even the department head. We had 5 extremely talented managers, and we went from 40 units a month to 850 units a month in less than 2 years. And it was the same thing. It was the people that made the process work. And that's what you guys are experiencing right now. I can see it. I can feel it. I can see the vibration. You've got you haven't even cracked your levels yet, Brian.
No, we're just scratching the surface, but the clarity that has to be provided, because as you're, catapulting through digital transformation, which a lot of dealers are now, keeping everybody informed is a monumental task. I mean, the communication, it's paramount. We still don't do enough of it, but along the way, keeping everybody in the loop as to what's going on, especially during COVID when there's not as many meetings and you can't have everybody in a room together. It's a challenge. And the more you scale it, the harder it gets to communicate that and keep everybody in the loop and onboard them all the same way and make sure that they're, ready to roll from week one.
From week
Brian, you nailed it there. I mean, you were talking about it's not only just the communication of what's growing and evolving internally, but also externally. It's that equal communication to the customers of what's changed. That's what's really helped us kind of get ahead of it, but also going to continue to help push us through, the next level. It's that constant communication, both sides of the fence, both internal with our salespeople and teams, but also with our guests who are in for service and guests who are looking to buy a car.
One thing is the human interaction. Everybody has said that over and over again. I've taught it. Wendell's taught it. I know Kramer has. I know Jarrod has. Common ground. I mean, so many salespeople today, the minute they call a consumer that they've sold in the past, one of their past customers, first thing they do is, who do you know? Do you have a neighbor? You have a friend? I mean, they're trying to sell a car before they get into any interaction.
Right.
Jarrod, I'm going to show you something. Common ground, where you line up something in your inventory with something in the customer's inventory. Now, my inventory is I'm an Eagle Scout. I raised beagles at one time. Oh, wait a minute. I raised beagles. What did we talk about before the others got on the broadcast?
We were just talking about you getting a new puppy here for Christmas, and my wife and girls are as well. And we started talking beagles, and then it went to guns. And if everybody knows Jim, that's another very hot topic. So we got two big ones to talk about there together. Beagles and guns. Gotta love it.
Beagles and guns. I mean, within 10 minutes while we were waiting for the other guys to get on the broadcast, we talked beagles, we talked girls, we talked guns. Because I've crawled all over your Facebook page, and I knew everything to know about you. When I call on a dealer or a customer, I will crawl all over their Facebook page. I will know all about them before they come in my dealership. Does that make good sense? You and I had common ground before you knew we had common ground. First thing I ask you is, don't you know how to make boys?
Well, that's a no with four daughters. I'm stuck on that one. I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, all three of us on the call are stuck with that one.
That's a fact. I got two.
That's true.
2 girls.
So between the three of us, there's 8 girls, 8 daughters. So what's that tell you, Jim?
Something in the Toyota, maybe.
Right?
I've got 2 granddaughters. Guess what? That's it.
That's awesome.
Amazing. What else would you want the people to know about the success and the path that Germain Toyota's on? Wendell started off.
I think, when you asked earlier, you said, how are you cars, and, is your gross evaporating from it? As we've all changed, so has the customer. How many times have we all sat and had to deal with, upset customers? And most of them were upset because you charged me too much for the car. I didn't get enough for the trade. The issues that I deal with, with customers nowadays, 90% of them are time. It's all about time. It took a little too long. I was at the store for 3.5 hours. Brian came up with the idea, God, how long? What, 6-7 months ago, Brian? Where we stopped advertising price, and it was just simple, fast, and easy.
Yep.
So we don't even preach price. It's not the $99 down, $99 a month, message that's out there. So when our customers come in, they're here for the experience. They're not here for the price. They're not here for, an unrealistic payment. They're here because they want the white glove treatment, and they want their time respected. And from there, they want to be treated, just like you would treat your mother or your sister if she was coming to come buy a car.
One thing Brian and I talked about last time was the most important thing in the Germain philosophy at your dealership. They got to be on the right car.
Oh yeah. Selection's the key. I mean, and to Brian's point, that's why with our process, the meet, greet, and then, the needs analysis. And that's another thing that, Dave with Quantum 5, that's his big thing too. I mean, we pretty much retooled our whole needs analysis as far as the questions that we're asking and how we're asking those questions, and being okay with sitting there spending 15 minutes with a customer, 20 minutes with a customer, rather than just going out and walking the lot and let's see what we see that may catch your eye. So we really drill it down. And to Brian's point earlier, when we're able to land the customer on the right car the first time, the process is so fast, it's so easy, and the customer has a fantastic experience. It's when we shortcut that particular step to where the rest of the steps break down.
So selection, all important. Jarrod, how much are consumers in today's world pre-selecting, pre-filling out the paperwork? are you doing any of that with technology while they're still on the site?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting people now to the point of the ability to go as far as they want to go. The nice thing is with Prodigy, we can see in detail not only what the guest has done, what steps to the sale they've already done online, but the iPads that the sales team use and the reporting that Wendell and Brian are living in gives the visibility of the full cycle of that guest, of how much was done online, what happened when they came in store. Did we pick up where they left off, or did we try and restart the process all over again? And it's really, as Wendell was just talking about the needs assessment, they might pick a specific car online, but then come in and through the needs assessment, we go over all the details behind it, and they've actually placed themselves on a different vehicle while they're in store.
So, most people do. I believe that to this day, that even though they thought they were specifically on a unit, they switch themselves.
A lot of the time they'll still switch, but then at the same time, we've had guests who are looking for that one specific car. But it really comes down to being able to deliver that experience between, what they expect online and what they're seeing and what we're marketing. Is that being lived up to when the guest comes into store? I know Brian's going to laugh on this one, but we advertise fast, simple, easy. That's the process. That's what they expect.
Fast, simple, easy.
Yeah, and we out of the gate, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot once or twice, and we had customers saying, "Well, it's not fast, simple, easy. Now what?" And we had to learn through that. So the biggest reason why this all works is these two guys over here. They're not afraid to fail, and they're not afraid to acknowledge that, hey, maybe we went too fast, or maybe we tried this. They're not afraid to break things and then rebuild, retool to make it even better for that guest experience.
Full circle back to you, Brian. Same question. What is the secret sauce that brought it all together?
I think it's the fact that we're all very open and very vulnerable, like what Jarrod was just saying. Trust is the foundation of the whole deal, and the ability to call each other out, because let me tell you, it's not lollipops, rainbows, unicorns, and everybody blowing sunshine up each other's asses. It's candid conversations. It's having real conversations, and everybody poking holes. I ask these two all the time, hey, am I crazy? And half the time they say I am. But the other half, there's something to it. And I think that, and you experienced this years in training, I am fascinated right now with the decisions that people make. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, now I've made more mistakes, so obviously it's more clear. But for everybody who's coming behind us in terms of digital transformation, you got to trust the data. Jarrod gives us copious amounts of data, so we're tearing through it. But even when people have data, you look at it from a gambling perspective, is the analogy I've been using lately. The problem is, like in F&I, people will present something and they'll follow the process and it doesn't work, even though we know it's not going to work 100% of the time. And then they'll try something else when they know that it's only a 60%, or like in baseball, it's like changing your swing because you're batting 300 and you think you can bat 500. It doesn't make any sense. But the more dangerous thing is when things don't work. When you don't follow the process and it does work, then you make this false belief in your mind that there might be another way, and you start reinventing the wheel instead of just sticking to the basics and not trying to reinvent everything. Because to your point earlier, technology should only be there to strip away the non-personal things so that we can communicate more with the customer. The stuff that they shouldn't be doing, all the extra paperwork and all the extra forms and all the other stuff that doesn't enhance the experience, needs to be stripped away so the only thing left exposed is the experience. And not to let all this other stuff and gut and intuition get in the way.
When I was teaching Dale Carnegie courses 35 years ago, when I was in the early 70s, longer than 35 years ago, I was teaching Dale Carnegie in Jacksonville, Florida, working for the franchisee. And it was all relationship selling. You had to do their occupation, their recreation, their motivation, and you had to know where that customer was coming from. And you had to line up your inventory with their inventory. People don't do that today. Most salespeople start out talking about the deal. It's all about the deal. Hi, welcome to the dealership. What's your budget? You know,
And that's a deal. And that's a deal killer.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you a big part of that problem.
is
And
what?
we used to be a big part of that problem because we were advertising $99 a month, $99 down. So the customer came in asking about it. So the salespeople had to be trained about it. And then we were chastising the salespeople for talking price when we were the ones that, started the deal. It's not, utopia, but Wendell, would you agree that they bring up price a lot less frequently now with the advertising than they did? It still comes up.
It's such a different vibe with the customer now than it was then. And listen, let's not make any mistakes. Let's not forget that last year, out of 12 months in 2019, I think we broke 7 all-time anytime records for the dealership using that same play. But what we found is that when we changed it to where it's not a constant headbutting with the customer, our velocity, our volume hasn't slowed down, but the experience is just so much smoother. The customer's not coming in with their fist up ready to fight, and the salespeople, they don't have to be armed with 40 million word track to try to overcome an objection. They're just better listeners, and that's Jim, I've heard you say this before. The best closers in the world are the best listeners. So that's kind of our deal. I believe that's had a lot to do with again the consistency of the customers that we have and the business that we do, and it being sustainable.
It's got to be, because people are telling me today that people don't care who the dealership are. I think they want to know you, like you, and trust you before they ever give you their money.
Agreed.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
and the problem is, when are you going to train people to do all those things?
Where do you find the people?
Because if you have, if you're constantly closing deals or having to close deals because they can't control customers, you got to be putting out fires, which happens in every dealership, right? But the more percentage of the time that you're putting out fires and reacting to all that stuff, the less time you're spending training, coaching, developing, mentoring, promoting.
Most of those fires that you see most explosions on the sales floor are because the salesperson's done or said something inappropriate. And that goes back to training, that goes to management. When I used to teach managers, people would say to me, well, I can't get my salespeople to do this, or my salespeople won't do that. And I would always say, well, what's that a symptom of? And the answer was always weak management. When a manager complained to me they couldn't get their salespeople to do something, what's that a symptom of? Weak management, weak training.
Right, you guys are not motivated.
They're not motivated. Jarrod, before we close this broadcast out, we're coming on an hour. What have we not covered that we should cover?
Just be prepared for growth and change. We all in this space learned a lot from 2020. A lot of dealers got thrown against the wall. Some people were shut down, couldn't transact. Some people could transact digitally. I think that's the first time that something like that has really come about, at least in my 14 years in the industry, that we've been forced to do something. And I don't think it's going to revert back. So it's going to be one of those things, adapt or die type of mentality right now. And biggest one is reevaluate all your marketing spend. I mean, is it effective? Are your third parties effective still? I see discussions going on in Wendell's group all the time, and this works for this store, this works for this store, but there's no common consistency of how anybody measures success. So in 2021, how do you plan to measure success, and then find somebody that meets and aligns with you? And if it doesn't help you become more successful and doesn't give you the ability to measure success, look and find something that will.
Are we doing any deliveries outside the dealership? How much is that trend catching on, what I call the Carvana trend? Is that real? Is that imagined? Carvana and Vroom are now 6% of the total market. They're not a major factor in the overall scheme of things, but they are certainly getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a huge element to it. But the biggest issue with that is ourselves as dealers and managers. And well, I have a customer that's 25 minutes away and they want to test drive this car, but I don't want to take a car to them because I'm salesperson A. I don't want to leave the store because I might miss an up. And it's like, it doesn't make sense. This is somebody who wants to test drive, who's letting you come into their home or their place of business. Rather than doing that, you'd rather sit around and wait for the up bus to come through. I mean, it still blows my mind.
I saw the up bus. It was at your dealership yesterday. It was a big brown truck, and it even said ups right on the side. It delivers your ups to the parts department.
Absolutely.
The ups bus delivered your ups to the parts department.
It's real.
So it's
the up bus is now DoorDash and Uber Eats and all the other places that are bringing everybody their lunch every day.
Okay. Oh, Wendell, take it from here. What have we not talked about that we need to talk about? We just talked about concierge sales outside the dealership. That may be a trend. That might not be a trend. What do you see? Where are we headed?
I think where we're headed is it to be seen. I think that we're all as an industry making adjustments, and we're making adjustments, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. I think the biggest piece of it is let's not forget what we're doing. We're just selling cars. We're not splitting atoms or building rocket ships. We're just selling cars. So keeping it simple, surround yourself with the right people and listen to what they have to tell you. Kind of like Steve Jobs used to say or said, I hire smart people and I, let them tell me what to do rather than tell them what to do. And that's what, Brian, does a hell of a job at. And, and that's what I do too, is just know when to get out of the way and not overcomplicate stuff.
I hear you guys saying it. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation, the 4 subjects that will endear somebody to you.
Yeah.
Family, occupation, recreation, motivation, the 4 subjects of conversation. And Jarrod and I went through all 4 of those before you guys got on. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation. We talked about all of it.
Yeah, just keeping it simple, right? Selling a car, that's that's the common denominator that hasn't changed since my 24 years in the business, and I don't see that change. I think if you take care of the customers, the customers will take care of you.
And Kramer, let's wrap it up. Same question. What have we not talked about that needs to be discussed?
I think that we underestimate the surrounding yourself with ethically and morally sound people and staff and team, because that's what's going to affect your customers when you're not around at night and on Sunday. Or especially the more that we get into this remote delivery business and you're sending associates out, they better be fundamentally, not culturally flawed, because you got to trust them that when they're in a foreign environment and a customer's letting them into that environment, that they know what the right thing to do is. And if they have to ask what's the right thing to do, then, obviously you got your answer. So making sure that you're surrounding yourself that, because the customer's bullshit meter is way up right now and it's only going to get more intense. And when we use word tracks and say things that aren't sincere, genuine, authentic, they read it now more than ever because they're highly tuned into it. And you just can't do that shit anymore. Those days are over, and it's time to adapt, evolve. There's a hell of a lot of money to be made by doing that.
I think Wendell will attest for 35 years, I've said it's conversation, it's not memorization.
100%.
It's conversation, it's not memorization. And, to talk to Dave or Brian yesterday, to read where they're coming from. What's their buying motive? And one last question. I wrote an article 2 weeks ago, is the demo drive dead?
I don't think the demo drive's dead. Are you asking a question, Jim? Or
yeah, I guess I am. Is the demo drive dead? Are we doing demo drives the way we once did? Sometimes, all the time? Tell me about it.
we do them the way the customer wants them done. So
Amen.
if the customer feels comfortable with the salesperson riding along, then we'll run that play. If the customer wants to take the car, and go by themselves, back when the three of us were selling cars, that was a no-no.
Condition
But
of employment.
Now it's more than So yeah, I don't think the demo drive's dead at all. I think it's just morphed into, giving a little bit more control to the customer, and a heck of a lot of trust and hey, I've got a Mercedes-Benz SL 600 sitting out back right now that we let a customer go on a demo job all by themselves, and it's all smashed up. It's going to cost me $12,000. It's a numbers game too. So
unbelievable. This is amazing. I get to visit with my friends, and we all get to tell war stories. I absolutely.
Really, you're living the dream every day.
I love you guys. I mean, it's just you are my people.
hey, it's great to see you back in your groove, Jim. I missed you when you were off the air for a little bit there. So you have no idea, and I watched your interview with Dave O'Brien yesterday, and I watched pretty much every one that you do. You have no idea how much you mentor people without you even knowing who they are. I know you've had a huge impact on my life and what you think. And hell,
Mine as well.
I've
stolen
look behind me at all the Lifetime Achievement Awards on the shelves behind me. I keep telling people, stop giving me these awards. I'm not going anywhere.
That's obvious.
Look at these Lifetime Achievement Awards. I'm immortal. I spit in Death's face 3 times last year. I'm not going anywhere. Brian, thank you. Thank you sincerely.
No, thanks for having us, Jim. This is how you become immortal. All these podcasts.
Thanks for Wendell. I say Jarrod had to hop off. I've always admired Jarrod. I mean, this is the dream team, and I've been on 2 dream teams in my life that I watched grow to the big numbers. You guys haven't even got to where you're headed.
We're just scratching the surface. You're right. Well, now you just put us on Front Street, so now we don't have a choice, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I got you guys under the microscope.
Yes, you do.
The broadcast you and I did a couple weeks back, Brian.
Yes.
The broadcast we did. Some guys in London called me and asked me some questions about things we talked about.
That's crazy. That's actually
car dealers in the UK.
The world.
They sent me a picture of them watching our video.
That's crazy. I talked to my grandmother the other day from London. She was talking about adversity, and she said, you guys are talking about lockdown and all this other stuff. She goes, when I was a kid growing up in London, she's 93 years old last week. She said that they had to walk across rubble, and the back of her house is blown out by bombs. She said, we still went to school. The teachers still showed up. She goes, that's the mindset that the whole world needs right now, is just to, keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. Okay, big guy, we will do this again. Wendell, it is so good to see you again. I mean, we don't do this enough.
No, we don't, buddy. And I love you to death, man. Y'all have a very Merry Christmas, and hello to Miss Debbie.
Oh, I'll definitely. Miss Debbie will ask about that. Take care, guys.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
See you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.